welcome back to a Chandler's channel. I'm Tracy, your host, and today's session is our intuitive weekly reading for November 11th to 17th, 2013. So if that's what you're here for, please stay tuned. Whitehawk will be up with our weekly reading. But for now, as always, I like to touch back on the previous week's reading to see if there were any parallels. So last week it was about meltdown, breakdown, and shakedown. And you could be in one or any of those categories, whether it be alone or together. And that there would be a huge silver lining at the end of it all. So for me, as you recall with the reading, I started to literally melt down before the reading. And oftentimes readings can come to me like way ahead, like they start ahead of when I'm actually ready for them. And so I was melting down at that point in time, literally. And it's like the witch say, I'm melting. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyways, okay. So, but I'm not the bad green witch. I'll think of myself as Linda, the good witch of the north, right? Anyways, so what I see in and around me, not only in my life, but when I say that I mean around me, and that could be anything from Facebook, Twitter, to wherever I've been, whether it was in a mall or outside or wherever, you know, people were melting down and there were breakdowns happening. And look at that, I'm still melting. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope, you know, that this week is not about meltdowns, but we'll soon find out. I need a makeup person, right, that can come and dab me. Isn't that what they do between takes? Then it wouldn't look so awful as me dabbing myself. So at the end of the week with the meltdown, breakdown, shakedown, there'd be that big silver lining. And I was shown Dash from The Incredibles, the little blonde-haired boy who's super fast, hence the name Dash. And so for me with the silver lining, it was like literal because we watched The Incredibles. I love Disney movies. If there's anything that's been great or is a plus about being a parent, is getting to see the Disney movies, right? Like Meet the Robinsons and The Incredibles. And we watched The Incredibles, and I love that film so much. So for us, it was the literal silver lining of getting to see Dash, right? And I was trying to think of what a silver lining for me would be, and I haven't, and it may be there, and I just haven't seen it yet, or it hasn't presented itself yet. Because remember I said, you know, when we do readings, they're not an exact science. So it's not like it happens, okay, it's going to happen between the 11th and the 17th. It can happen sometimes just before, and it of course can go over. And for us, we think like 3 days is a lot for it to go over, but like sometimes it can be three weeks, it can be 3 months. If you go back into my May monthly reading, at the very end, and I was so embarrassed when Whitehawk said this, I remember it. Whitehawk saying I was going to have a grave loss. And so I was going through May going, oh my God, like what the heck, right? Like who, what, where, when, how, and why. But it didn't develop until 3 months later, 4 months later. And for those of you who have been following me, in September I lost a friend. And they went back home to God, right? Losing a friend, that's how I meant loss. I don't mean as in lost them as in we're no longer friends, but this person died tragically. And so that's my example to you as how we may get a reading, and then it doesn't mean literally in that month, but they need to get out to you that this will indeed happen to you, because they want to get you prepared for it on a conscious level and a higher conscious level. So he said it, and that happened in September. And I didn't think about that until a couple of weeks ago, so I can use that as an example for you about readings not being an exact science. And, sorry, I'm really melting down here. Okay, so that's the meltdown, breakdown, shakedown, and the wrap up with the silver lining and the Incredibles for this past week. So let's go in and get our reading for this week, because if it is about melting down, I really would like to stop. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go get our my spirit guide, but I kind of believe that he oversees all of you guys too. He's kind of a guardian angel for you guys as well. Okay, so let's go get Whitehawk and see what he has to say. Indeed. He says, meltdowns, breakdowns, shakedowns, oh my. Indeed, it was a horrific week for many, he says, and Tracy did fail to mention, or forget to mention, that indeed there was this typhoon that occurred in the Philippines. And I go, again, thank you, Whitehawk, my savior. I forgot to mention that at the front of our message. He goes, no need, my friend. I will do my best to always help you out. He says, so Whitehawk continues, he says, indeed it was a traumatic week, a tragic week for many, he says, with this typhoon passing in through their region. But for many others, he says, it was much more tragic in a devastating way. And he lets us ponder that deep. It is not that I mean to bring up the past, my children, for indeed we are talking of this upcoming week, but sometimes we do need to trudge through the past in order to break through for the future. And a lot of people are like, well, I thought, most people that got their hands up like, well, I thought most people would be like, well, you live in the present, don't worry about the future, that's, evil. And he goes, yes, but indeed sometimes, excuse me. Okay, so I want to mention that we are sitting at the campfire. Oftentimes we come to this place that there's a bonfire going and we're sitting around on logs or in Muskoka chairs listening to Whitehawk. And he goes, yes, indeed. Now he says, indeed, I have said to you, sometimes we have to break through the barriers of the past in order to move forward into the future. And he was met with some rebuttal. He goes, but in order to clear up a lot of the energy that is blocked within ourselves, he says, within our body, we need to most definitely, sorry, I got very, very distracted by a big bus. Okay, I'll just go back in here. So this is showing you can stop and go again when you're channeling. Ollie, don't you start now. My dog's here too. So it'll be a week of interruptions if you ask me. Okay, so Whitehawk is trying to express to us how we need to clear the blocks of the past in order for us to move forward into the future. And he goes, that is exactly my sentiment, my child. Even though this man that is coming forth, again, I've seen him a few times, has this gray hair and tanned skin, and he's definitely in his 50s, if not 55, I would say. And he often comes forward with a rebuttal for Whitehawk. And he goes, so Whitehawk says, indeed, we need to move past the past in order to be able to move fluidly into the future. For if we cannot break through the barriers of our past, how could we possibly move on to a brighter and more fluid future? And so, my children, what is on tap, so-called on tap for this week, is that there will be residual past matters that will show up. And, he says, have begun to present themselves. Last week, he says, henceforth, meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. And so this week, they will come up even more, only looking for us to clear them so as we may clear the way for a brighter, more fluid, more abundant future that is ours, come what may. So do not be afraid when you are greeted by your past, when you are face to face with your past. Simply greet it. Say hello. What is it that you want here today? How may I help you? Listen. Oh, I see. That is what you want here today. Okay. Well, then I may deliver this unto you. So Whitehawk is showing you how you're going to greet your past, ask what it is that it wants, then clear it or communicate with it, and then allow it to pass. Because indeed, that is indeed what we are doing here in this example, in this exercise. And it may not like what you have to say, or you might not like what it has to say. But indeed, it is very well worth the listen in order to clear up the trauma and the regurgitation and the tragedy of yesteryear. So greet it and then say goodbye to it forever. And say hello to your abundant, fluid, ever so beautiful future and, he says, present day. God bless my children. It is a big week for many that is coming up. A big week. Be blessed. God bless. And he blesses himself. Thank you, Whitehawk. Well, there you have it, a big week coming up, clearing the past away, it sounds like. Be interesting to see. You're going to bump into someone that you haven't seen in years. Maybe you're going to get that phone call, or maybe it's going to be an email. Ooh, I don't know how it's going to happen, right? We'll see. It'll be interesting to see, and see if we could share it. Because sometimes we don't want to share those things that happen, right? And of course, me, I wouldn't want to share something too personal like that, although I do share a lot. All right, so our next video session episode, what do you like calling it? We did our last one on karma, and it was pretty awesome. Have a listen. And we did the one on natural disasters previous to that, so you might want to have a listen to that in regards to the typhoon that just hit in the Philippines. So our next one is going to be on thoughts, because Whitehawk mentioned in the karma intuitive log how powerful our thoughts are. And it was actually Whitehawk that said, hey, we should do a video on thoughts. So you know what? Let's honor the big guy. And let's do our intuitive log on thoughts. I'm sure he has lots to say. Okay, have a great week out there, children, young and old. Be safe. Don't be afraid to meet your past. God bless. I'm Tracy for a Chandler's Channel. Subscribe. It's free. Like, comment, and share. See you soon.